welcome to the Pastor Studies. You know, when we become angry, it will cause us to do things that we might not normally do. Our behavior becomes altered because of the anger. Anger can turn us to doing things that without anger we would say, I would never do that. Well, we are looking at the life of David, and we see today the anger that is burning within Saul. God has already told Saul that he was going to lose the kingdom. So everything that he's doing, he's fighting against God. He's pushing back against God. And every time he loses a battle, every time he sees David succeeding, every time he looks at David and probably at this point recognizes that David's probably the one God is going to use to be the king. Now, David was anointed, but Saul doesn't know that. And yet Saul sees the people around David enjoy David. They like him. They've sung praises about David's success in battles. And so Saul's anger has been growing little by little, to the point that here, when we look in chapter 20, the second half of chapter 20, when Jonathan comes to try to figure out why Saul wants to kill David, Saul's anger rises up to the point that he wants to try and kill his own son. He curses out his own son because of his anger. He says, you will never be king if David survives. Don't you want to be king? That's the question that's laying there for us to pick up. He said, everybody wants to follow in their father's footsteps. I'm king, you should be king. Of course, that's not what Jonathan is thinking. He recognizes that God's hand is upon David. He just wanted to know if, in fact, Saul, his own father, wanted to kill David. And it becomes very clear, as a result of the conversation that goes on, Saul wants David's life. And so as a step of protection, and as it was agreed in the beginning part of what we saw in 1 Samuel chapter 20, Jonathan goes out with a young boy, shoots that arrow, and hollers out that the boy needs to go a little further to go find those arrows. And he knew nothing of what was being communicated. So he finally brings those arrows back to Jonathan. And David then comes out of hiding, comes back to Jonathan. Jonathan reveals all that's going to be going on. And they depart for one last time. What will you do to protect someone when someone else wants to bring them harm? Will you speak up in defense? Will you shield them and protect them? I trust that you will. Till next time, goodbye, and may God